barriers do you see in the church at large that that need to come down for the gifts of Indigenous people to be welcomed?
Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that can happen, I think, has to go back to a deeper level, is like recognizing like where cultures have come from, where people groups have come from, right? Like when we think about like the creation story, when God created people, he created cultures, he created people that carry specific giftings, that carry language, tradition, and if God created those things, he blessed them as well, right? And so like recognizing the beauty in culture and recognizing the origin of culture, right? The origin is that God made these people, and he, you know, in terms of our Indigenous population in Canada, like God made all of those people groups across Canada for purposes, right? Divine purposes, created them, their languages, their facial expressions, their traditions, all of these things, he created them, and he smiles on them and says that they're good, right? And so I think like recognizing like where these groups are from, where that God has blessed them, that can be one barrier that can come down. Another, I think, a barrier is just like, I think in any, it's not just very specific to our Indigenous people, but across the board, I guess, to all cultures, is that judgment thing, right? That I just said before, that I have in my head, right? You actually have to like turn it off, shut it off. But just like, instead of like judging, it's just like waiting and asking, like, God, what are you doing? Like, where are you in this group? Like, what is it that you're doing, and how can we partner with what you're doing? I think that's something, you know, turning off the judgment and just listening to the Lord to say, Lord, what are you doing here with these people? Because often when there's a judgment, you know, when we get that thing going in our head, if we were just to stop and say, okay, turn that off. Lord, what do you see here? Pretty sure it's not going to be a judgment. You know, if we listen, you know, so just, it would be good for people to just turn off their judgments and ask the Lord, what can we celebrate here? What is beautiful? What is good? And celebrate those things. You know, one of the things that I love about being in our church and being in the area that we are located is that, you know, when there are vulnerable people within our community present in the service, sometimes it can be unpredictable. You know, we there's part of me that loves the order. You know, I love it when things kind of work together and nice and smooth. But I've learned that I watch now for the times when things get a little rowdy. And the reason why.
What do you mean by rowdy?
By rowdy? Oh, like when, like, you know, somebody's preaching and they answer you back, right? Like when they or shout things out to you that might feel a bit random.
Maybe there was no question in the first place.
They're not, but they're giving you feedback, you know. Or someone, you know, everything's good, and then somebody like walks like slowly, very visibly, like across the front of the sanctuary, and it's hard not to your eye to be drawn to what's going on. You know, like that's what I mean by disruption. So like the calling out, or the unpredictability, the rowdiness, or fights, things like that break out. But what I've learned is that I do that very thing. Instead of making the judgment thing, is like, Lord, what are you doing? What are you up to here? Because I find that when I keep that posture, often the Lord will speak very profoundly through these people, through his people, through his children. And I'll give you an example. A number of weeks ago, there was a man who looked like a refugee, and he spoke with an accent. I think he was maybe from North Africa. And so he came to the front, and he was kind of like incoherent in some of the things he was saying. It wasn't like 100% sure, but I was just like tuning in because I thought I know something's going to be said. He's going to say something. And so he had a little bit of an interaction with the person that was speaking, and then he went to leave. And as he went to leave, he said it, and he swore, but he said, "I just miss my children." And he said it loud, and he said it like it was abrupt, right? Like it was jarring. And I thought, that's the Spirit of God's voice right there. He's like, "I just long for my children." Like, that's what I heard. I heard the Father just say, "I just love my kids so much. And I'm so devastated when they're not with me." Right? And I thought, if you would have just looked at the natural with natural eyes, you would have said, that man, he's disrupting the service. And, it's unsightly, it's, out of order, get him out of the way. But I felt like when he spoke, there was something so beautiful in that, and it ministered so deeply to me that was, he didn't go up and say, "I have a word from the Lord this morning, the word from the Lord is you," is that, he loves his children. I don't think it could have been delivered in a more powerful way than that man being moved by the unction of the Holy Spirit to come up and say what was the cry of his heart, and that being the echo of the cry of God's heart. So I love that when that happens, and it happens a lot.
It sure does.
Yeah. And in every time, you just have to listen. You just have to tune in. When it happens now, I get excited. I kind of feel like, okay, what's he going to speak? What's he going to say?
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful, beautiful gift to us. Beautiful gift.